What is bioremediation? When we think about the bioremediation, the classical definition says that bioremediation is the use of living organisms such as microbes and bacteria to remove contaminants, pollutants, and toxins from soil and water. Means any biological process or any process which is enhanced with the use of living beings such as microbes to remove contaminants, pollutants, and toxins from soil and water is called as bioremediation. But in this video, we will consider example of oil spill to understand the process of bioremediation. In next slide, we will take a look at process of formation of crude oils and their degradation. Understanding this process will give you an idea to how to revert this process to degrade the oil that has come up on the sea surface or the sea water surface in the form of oil spills. Here you can see glycerol. Glycerol, which is a form of oil or fatty acid, which we can found in animals, plants, or many living beings. So what has happened before millions of years that these animals and plants having such a number of types of hydrocarbons and carbohydrates and various organic matters, these living beings got buried under the earth, under the earth's crust or under some layers of earth. Due to this, what has happened that these oils and this organic matter has experienced a high temperature and high pressure for millions of years. This high temperature and pressures causes the reduction of its means of glycerols or of any other organic molecules oxygen content to get depleted. Means the this glycerol lose its oxygen and formed a substance, a precursor substance of crude oil, which is called as kerosene. And this kerosene, after some years from crude oil, here we can consider a crude oil, for example, paraffin oil. So here you can see that paraffin oil have CHHH, but there is no oxygen, or there is less oxygen than the glycerol. Yes, this is but obvious because reduction of its oxygen content is already happened. So in this way, the crude oils or type of crude oils forms. We here will consider example of paraffin oil, let's say, and consider an accident occur. For example, the accident of jet planes, as you know that in jet planes or in jet engines, paraffin oil is used as energy source, and the accident occurred and plane crashed into the sea, and this results in the spillage of paraffin oil over a sea. As spillage occurs, like ants senses the presence of sugar in any corner of the house and accumulate there to eat that sugar. The microorganisms also senses the presence of paraffin oil with the help of chemical sensors. Yes, Many organisms senses the presence of this oil, but those organisms which are having ability to use this paraffin oil or utilize this paraffin oil as a source of carbon will come to the site of the paraffin oil spillage. Yes, this process takes a lot of time, like months it will take. And after the months, the bacteria here, which we found that it uses paraffin oil as a source of energy or a source of carbon, or which is able to use paraffin oil as a source of carbon, is called pseudomonas. This pseudomonas here, for example, we say have came to that place. After coming to that place, it will produce biosurfactants. These biosurfactant molecules will be secreted by the pseudomonas, and these biosurfactant molecules will bind to the oil and will form small droplets of oil, so that the bacteria can take up that small droplets, and it can use these small droplets as a source of energy, and it can proliferate to increase its biomass. And this biomass increase or this increased biomass will be eaten by some other living thing, and then other higher living things, then more and more higher classes of living things, and then by eukaryotes, and then by plants, and finally the some part of this paraffin oil will get converted back to the glycerol, and this cycle remains going on, that one day this animal which have now accumulated glycerol will also get buried, and after millions of years this glycerol will also get converted into crude oil, and this cycle is occurring naturally. So if uh, this is the natural way of the biosphere to remediate or remediate itself. The word as I have used word remediation here, I would like to explain more about this. What is the meaning of this word? First meaning is that to remade. What we remedied, or what we are aiming to remade, is nothing but the natural order. What is natural order? Natural order is respective place of that oil in the environment. So the nature or biosphere has kept this oil under the sea or under the sea water in a very respective place, or in a very safe place from where it will not get leaked. But we humans have breaked this natural order, and we pumped this oil over the sea surfaces, and therefore now we are facing the problem, like oil's respective place is under the water. So when we exploit oil from its respective place and bring it up over the sea surfaces, many problems occur. So here, not only us, but nature is also aiming to remade this order. This is the one meaning of the process remediation, that is to remade. But there is one another meaning of this word, that is to mediate. To mediate. Uh, in this slide, you have seen that this all process is naturally occurring. Yes, this remediation processes is naturally occurring in the planet. Even if we haven't done anything, this process is going to happen. But what is in our hand, or what we can do, is that we can only mediate this process to become faster. And this is the principle of all processes of bioremediation that we carry out to clear, let's say, anything like we have to clear oil spills. Yes, the oil degrading bacteria are going to arrive there, but we just uh, grow these bacteria in the lab or in the factory and increase their number and put these bacteria only to clear these oil spills. Means we are just mediating the oil degradation process, or we just add some other extra nutrients to this water so that the bacteria which are naturally present there, they can use this oil. So we are just mediating to fasten up this process. Yes, until now we have learned about the conceptual understanding of this topic. From next slides, we will take a look at some facts, some definitions, and the processes and types of processes of bioremediation. So, bioremediation is the process to use microbial metabolism in the presence of optimum environmental conditions and sufficient nutrients to break down contaminants. In the environment, the oil spill or contaminant is going to be get degraded in any ways, but we use our knowledge to just increase the rate of biodegradation. This rate this rate we can increase either by adding the microorganisms or by adding the limiting nutrients which we provide to the native organisms that are going to carry out bioremediation process. So now there are three ways to carry out bioremediation process that we will take look in our next slide. So bioremediation processes can be principally divided in three categories. First category is biostimulation. Biostimulation means we just add the limiting nutrients to stimulate the fast process of biodegradation by the native microorganisms which are arrived at the place of oil spill. Next, bioaugmentation. In bioaugmentation, we add cultures of grown cell or cultures of some bacteria that we have designed in lab, which have enhanced capability to degrade that oil. Then third process is in which we use biostimulation and bioaugmentation at the same time. Yes, this process is the most preferred and most used process nowadays. No one uses bioaugmentation and biostimulation separately nowadays. Usually they use combination of these two methods to treat oil spills in very fast manner. Now in this slide we will take a look at difference between biostimulation and bioaugmentation. Biostimulation involves the modification of the environment to stimulate existing bacteria capable of bioremediation. On the other hand, bioaugmentation involves the introduction of microorganisms isolated from the contaminated site from a historical site are carefully selected and genetically modified to support the bioremediation of petroleum hydrocarbon contaminated site. So this is the main difference, that in biostimulation we just provide nutrients, the limiting nutrients at the site, so that the bacteria which are trying to use up the oil spills or the hydrocarbons from oil, that will get enhanced growth to use that oil. While on the other hand, in bioaugmentation, we provide the site with the genetically modified organisms or the organisms from the site where oil spills are frequently occurring. So these organisms have also the capability to degrade hydrocarbon. So this is the main difference, that in biostimulation we does not provide microorganisms to the contaminated site, while in the bioaugmentation we provide the microorganisms to the contaminated site so as to degrade the hydrocarbons or oil spills. So which process is to be selected, biostimulation or bioremediation, is decided on some of the parameters, of which first parameter is the site specific requirement, such as availability of microorganisms capable of degradation in sufficient quantities. This point means that if the site polluted with the hydrocarbon oil spill, if that site doesn't have microorganisms capable of degrading that oil, then there is useless, or it is useless to just provide nutrients. So in that case we have to provide the microorganisms to that site. Also, the nutrient availability in that site, nutrient here means the other nutrients than oil. This is also main criteria when we consider about giving the treatment. And also environmental parameters governs the process to be selected. Now in upcoming slides we will taking look at how microorganisms are actually helping to degrade the soil. So microbes in bioremediation. The use in modern bioremediation is credited in part to George Robinson. He used microbes to consume an oil spill along the coast of Santa Barbara, California in the late 1960s. The presence of microorganisms with the appropriate metabolic capabilities is the most important requirement for oil spill bioremediation. The communities which are exposed to hydrocarbons become adapted, exhibiting selective enrichment and genetic changes. The adapted microbial communities can exhibit higher biodegradation rates than communities with no history of hydrocarbon contamination. So, the availability to isolate high numbers of certain oil degrading microorganisms from an environment is commonly taken as evidence that those microorganisms are the most active oil degraders of that environment and can be used in the bioremediation of petroleum polluted sites. Since crude oil is made of a mixture of compounds, and since individual microorganisms metabolize only a limited range of hydrocarbon substrates, biodegradation of petroleum hydrocarbon requires mixture of different bacterial groups or consortia functioning to degrade a wider range of hydrocarbons. This process depends on nutrient availability and optimum presence of other factors that support biological functions. Now, from this slide, we will take a look into the steps in mechanism of petroleum hydrocarbon degradation. In example, we are considering the paraffin oil. Bacteria with chemical signal now senses the availability of carbon sugar, that is the paraffin oil, from the oil spill. Now bacteria wants to take the oil and extract the carbons from it. So what will it do? It will produce, it will first produce biosurfactants. These biosurfactants acts as emulsifying agents by decreasing the surface tension and forms the micelles. These micelles are can be taken by the cells via their cell membrane. In next slide, we will see now. In this slide, you have seen that the micro droplets of oil are taken up inside the cell membrane, and in next slide we will see that this oil, after entering the microbial cell, what is happening with it. So as in diagram, you can say that the hydrocarbon is taken in, that is the oil. It will first face the attack of oxygenases. These oxygenases will add oxygen to these oils, and the further degradation pathway will continue. And this degradation pathway will produce energy that will help bacteria to divide. And that's why only the bacteria is using this oil as paraffin oil as energy source, because this energy source is helping bacteria to divide and multiply. In this diagram you can observe that not only oil is the sufficient source for bacteria to grow, it also needs some ions such as NH4, PO4, SO4 or Fe3. So these are the limiting agents. These are the limiting nutrients. As at the site of oil spill, the hydrocarbon is in excess, but these nutrients are not in excess. These are the limiting nutrients. This we provide in biostimulation. So these nutrients and hydrocarbon will used up by the cell, and cell will divide, multiply, and the biomass, total biomass in the oil spill area will increase, and that will help us to remediate the environmental uh, effects that oil is causing. In this slide, you have to note a important thing that enzymatic key reactions catalyzed by oxygenase are very important, and you can see that O2 is entering in. Now remember the slide number 1 where we have seen that when from glycerol glycerol to kerosene when forms, this causes the reduction of oxygen content, and reverse of this happens when this crude oil is wanted to come in the form of glycerol again. You can see that oxygen addition or oxygenation is key step key step first step and most important step of the degradation of that hydrocarbon. Now you can go through the slides and read it again to understand. Thank you.